my title is Reexamining Ketone Replenishment in the Healing of Inflammatory Issues, its pros and cons, and therapeutic dosages from discovery, application, and review. Actually, this is a topic about ketone replenishment. That means there is a deficiency, so you need to replenish it. It's not that you have enough and then you overuse it. And then next, please. And the first one we'd like to look at is the hypothesis. We try to establish a relationship that is the mitochondrial activities and inflammatory response are inversely related to bring the body back to equilibrium. In equation, it is the body energy E constant is equal to mitochondrial activities MC plus a multiplier. And let's explain a little bit actually that the body energy is E and it is a constant. And then the MC activity means the metabolism and then the MC functionality. That means if your MC is not functionally well, then it will affect, the index figure that you are getting. And then the multiplier, which is consists of heat plus oxidative stress. Why? It is because when mitochondria actually produce the ATP, there will be oxidative stress induced, and then our body will become more pro-inflammatory. And then the heat itself, because it will generate heat during the process, and then the heat is the elevated inflammation. So when talking about inflammation, you are talking about inflammation with elevated inflammation, that is heat plus oxidative stress. So next, please. And one point I would like to point out is the vaccinated, if you have done the vaccination, actually within a period, your body will be, there will be some interference with the formula because the body will be a little bit different in the mitochondria activities MC and R. So vaccinated body and unvaccinated body, there is a little bit difference in the interpretation. So the equation is very self-explanatory. For example, if it is in diabetic cases, MC, that is the mitochondrial activities, are weak. That is why inflammatory responses are necessary to bring the energy to constant. You remember the formula by saying that they have
Doctor, we are sorry to interrupt
relationship.
So, Doctor, can you please let us know when you are changing the slide? When you want
maybe one slide, the previous one. This one. And then, so there is an inverse relationship. And then if your mitochondrial activities are weak, and then you need more heat and inflammation to bring your body back to constant. So that is why in diabetic cases, the mitochondrial activities are weak, and so you need a more inflammation, to heat up the activities and metabolism of your body to bring back the equilibrium. And in the case of rheumatoid arthritis, we are talking about MC insufficiency. That brings inflammatory response more than a diabetic case to bring the body back to constant. What is the difference? Like in a liver cells, if you need 200 mitochondria, then in a diabetic case, you still have 200 mitochondria, but their metabolism is weaker than the normal person. But in a RA person, it means that you don't have 200 mitochondria, and you only maybe have 100, and then it makes the mitochondria work harder and maybe a few times, more than a normal person. So that's why in an RA case, you can see that there are always fluid, filled with their neck, because they are bursting of the inside fluid to the body, to the outside body too. I mean to the body, to the outside organ or outside cell. So strictly speaking, autoimmunity is talking about condition that MC is insufficient, while metabolic deficiency is referring to weak mitochondrial activities Although these two cases also lead to inflammatory response of the body to keep the body energy at a constant equilibrium. So you need to make it clear that not all autoimmunity are the same. Some are because of the metabolism itself, but they have enough mitochondria. They just need to boost the activity and give a booster to the mitochondria, and then everything will be fine and back to normal. But in an RA case, because they don't have enough mitochondria, so apart from boosting the mitochondria, inflammation becomes an inevitable thing to happen for them. That's why their body or their bones are very inflamed than the other kind of illnesses too. And next please. And examining ketone and ketone fabrication actually in aromatic medicine or aromatherapy are very contradicting. It is argued that this is especially so when ketone-rich oils or blends are applied to people with neurological issues. At least it triggers more later occurrences, although temporary relief can be achieved. This is talking about people with epileptic seizure, because there are research done that when you apply ketone-rich oil like tea tree or eucalyptus globulus, and then if you don't trigger the ailments, if the seizure doesn't happen, on spot, then it will happen more, in the future. So next, please. In referring this, actually, the researchers make no difference between nano and macro application. Actually, nano and macro application are different. What do we mean by macro application? Is that you pour a drop or two from the oil bottle, but nano, you nanonize this into a very refined particle that is more readily absorbed by our brain through a nanotechnology or a machine or something like that. And for example, nano diffusing is very good at relieving headaches, while macro may just have temporary but creating more painful experience afterwards. I just want to say that you may be hard to believe that actually eucalyptus globulus seem to be very irritating, but it's very good for headaches or migraines if you use a nano diffuser. That means through a nano diffuser, the mist come out is nanonized, and then your body is more readily absorbed. And then actually, eucalyptus is maybe eucalyptus plus lavender, or eucalyptus plus rosemary plus lavender is very good for migraines or headaches, and you can have it disappear in hours. And through a nano diffusing, but it is impossible, totally impossible by doing this through macro, because you may have more headaches coming out, more migraines coming out, or maybe the intensity become more severe. And nano diffusing actually is a very effective in Alzheimer's disease in replenishing ketones to the brain. Actually, I have written an article for the Drug Design Journal Open Access about Alzheimer's disease and how to use nano diffusing with ketone-rich oils like eucalyptus globulus, rosemary, camphor, and plus lavender, and to heal. But you need to do 2 sections with each section for 6 hours. So you need a very refined particle to do this, or if not, before they get well, they will develop epileptic seizure too. So next, please. And nano emulsion blend is good in bringing down the blood pressure numbers, while macro one can have minimal and temporary results in this issue. And nanotechnology brings the difference in effectiveness and makes what things to be harmful and bad in the past to be beneficial to the treatment protocol now. For people with high blood pressure, actually, nano emulsion blend with keto-rich oil in a cream form actually brings a very good result if you apply it in the back neck or at their feet, and do a little bit light massage, and then to bring down the inflammation and then the temperature. Actually, this helps to prevent stroke, and at the same time can help them to bring down the blood pressure numbers too. And next, please. Basis of ketone choice. Ketone-rich oils commonly used like rosemary, camphor, eucalyptus globulus are cooling and invigorating. When applied, they not only provide a therapeutic results. This is especially so when heat would be created through some treatment techniques to cool down the temperature of the body so that inflammatory responses would be kept under control. Actually, a few years ago, I talked about the treatment protocols for the rheumatoid arthritis. And actually, the rheumatoid arthritis patients like to feel good, like to because their body was hot, and then they want it to be cool. So ketone will give them, ketone-rich oils, will give them like the peppermint, maybe peppermint cream, a peppermint cream will bring them very good results in not relieving heat, but make them feel good and energetically, feeling well too. So especially when you do a massage or do cupping or do gua sha, you need to cool down their body temperature a bit, before you apply this heating, the technique that will create heat for them. If not, even though your treatment protocol may be effective, they will refrain from, finishing the whole treatment process because people nowadays also look for feel good factor instead of physically good too. Next, please. In the RA case, ketone blend or nano emulsion is very much recommended. First, it cools the inflammation. Second, at the same time, it boosts the mitochondrial activities. In 1 to 2 treatments, the patient would be able to experience significant changes. So why use ketone is because it can cool the inflammation and at the same time boost the mitochondrial activity. So if you have a inflammatory response, that means your mitochondrial activity is much restricted, then the ketone-rich blend in nano form actually is very good by boosting the mitochondria, but at the same time reducing the inflammatory response too. So this is a very good oil, but the point is you cannot overtake it, or there is so much that you can take. If not, you will have developed some kind of seizure. So in a diabetic case, relying on ketone-rich oil blend, next please. Next please. In diabetic case, relying on ketone-rich oil blend in nano emulsion would not be enough, as more therapeutic properties needed to be taken into account. So at the beginning, we said that diabetic case is a metabolic, deficiency. So you have enough mitochondria, but it's just that the mitochondria are weaker than a normal person. So to bring it become more active and more energetic, you need ketone-rich oil to do the magic, but at the same time, it needs to be anti-inflammatory and lymphatic to improve the lymphatic drainage and uplifting one so that you can bring up to your brain and to make your brain feel energetic and feel good too. So in diabetes, you need to concern about whether to use the ketone, anti-inflammatory properties. You need to have anti-inflammatory properties and lymphatic drainage properties and uplifting. So it will be very effective for a diabetic person, to not only feel good, but physically can get some improvement too. In doing so, this could help boost metabolism, boost brain energy, and have an anti-inflammatory and ease edema issue. Next, please. Weaknesses versus insufficiencies. In the spectrum, actually, if there is a spectrum from insufficiency to weakness to fully charged mitochondrial activities, ketone-rich oil dosages decreases with the increase in metabolism and equilibrium constant is achieved. So if in an RA case, you need more ketone-rich oil, but in a diabetic case, the dosage is much less than a RA person, but you need to consider other oils that have the properties that I have mentioned. And replenishing, next please, replenishing to what extent? Insufficiency, you are talking about 50 to 100% ketone. weaknesses is 10 to 50% only. The rest, immunity boosting oils, lymphatic drainage that you need to pay attention to and consider. And the most overlooking is you need to consider the hot and cold receptivity in our body, especially in people who have a high blood pressure. Their hot cold receptivity actually functioning is not as good as a normal person. So you need to take this into account. So that's why their body, actually, the upper body is always, hotter than their feet. They will have a cold feet, but a hotter body too. This is because their hot cold receptors are not functioning well. And next, please, routes of application. So you need to consider the routes of application. So where is the best place to apply? What technology consideration? Is this nano or macro? And how big should the molecules be? Because you can apply 10 times ketone without any issue with a very refined molecule, but with one macromolecule, then it is going to trigger the seizure. And next, please, conclusion. Ketone replenishment with technology advancement brings hope to people with autoimmunity. With the new theoretical framework, different autoimmunity has different representation from the equation. Thus, a treatment protocol should be different. So don't say that autoimmunity is always the same. Actually, they have different if you take into account of the mitochondria activities and the inflammatory response. So you need to take these two into consideration to bring the body back to equilibrium. From this equation, actually, it will bring out the difference that you can see the difference, like the Lyme disease or any other kind of disease in anti-aging, that can help to aid you in the formulation of a better formula too. And next, please. And this is the end of my presentation, and this is my contact information. If you want to know actually which brand carry the nano emulsion because you don't want to do it and you cannot do it, actually you can contact me for this. And then if you have any questions, so just ask.